All right. I will kick us off. Like to say thank you guys for joining us today for what would be the last session of the Student Success Summit that was hosted back in February 10th and 11th. So this is the last session that we've pivoted to virtually. So again, thank you for sticking with us and that flexibility. Today we will talk about for this, quick hour, how do we support students with earned college credit, insights, discussions, and collaborations. And I would like to introduce myself. If you don't know who I am, I'm Ashley O'Neill. I am the Associate Director for the Strategies Gateway Course Success and Mental Health. Presenting with us here today will be Dr. Chris Ledford and the Senior Fellows who support the strategy, along with CPE's dual credit initiative, Trinity Walsh and Robin. And we will lead this discussion, and we're just excited for you again to join us. And I just want to make sure folks can see the slides okay. If I could get a thumbs up or just a yes in the chat, make sure everything is good. Thank you. And I just wanted to kind of give some background in the sense of the Student Success Collaborative, just in case this is your first time interacting with us. Again, we are happy for you to be joining us today. And just wanted you to know that the collaborative is an initiative of CPE, and we are here to help with all things student success. We recognize that this approach of the statewide initiatives, we want to make sure that we are impacting academic, social, professional, and personal experiences in the name of student success. And we work within CPE as an initiative to making sure that we advance student success. We have overall goals that we would like to achieve, and making sure that for each institution, we cater to those needs and make sure that everything is what we want, working towards the greater goal of 20 by 30 for the state of Kentucky, ensuring that 50% of our students who graduate obtain a goal of at least one degree post-secondary education by the year 2030. So any ideas that evolve around any of the initiatives, we would love to continue to do the great work for the state of Kentucky. And here's our agenda for today, just so that you could see it. Have a brief welcome overview. We'll talk about some trends. We'll do some breakout groups and a share out and report out to where we can hear each other's ideas and ensuring that everybody has a chance to hear some of the discussion. And then we would want you to take that back to your institutions to help implement the change that we would like to see. And we just have 3 objectives during this discussion today, and they are here up on the screen. And that's first being that we would like to examine dual credit trends and outcomes for the state of Kentucky. Second to that, we would like to explore strategies for supporting student success, those that have earned credit. And then for us as a group here today, a chance to collaborate and share insights or actionable steps, again, that you can take back. So that is how we would like to spend our hour with you guys today. Without further ado, I will pass it over to my colleague, Dr. Chris Ledford, who serves as the Director for Data and Advanced Analytics here at the Council on Post-Secondary Education. Chris, I'd like to pass it over to you.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. Can you still hear me okay? Good deal. All right. Well, in talking about the importance of dual credit as a strategy to facilitate attainment in post-secondary education, transitions to post-secondary education, I think it's important to start with a little context. So around 2016, just before this chart starts, the Kentucky legislature, with input from CPE, our secondary partners, certainly, and across the system, we're really advocating for the importance of dual credit as a strategy to foster transitions to college and ultimately college attainment. And around this time is when the Kentucky Dual Credit Scholarship was established, that trust fund to provide low to no cost dual credit opportunities for students across the state. Starting at that point and looking across this chart, then you can see sort of the rapid explosion in dual credit enrollment in 2017-18, that academic year, just over, or excuse me, just under 30,000 enrollments. To the previous year, just under 50,000 enrollments. So an increase of 20,000 enrollments in just 6 short years. So thinking about that, a lot of research sort of went into this advocacy for supporting dual credit, both in terms of funding and through the work that the Commonwealth Education Continuum and our dual credit staff at CPE are working on. But it's always important to kind of keep track of progress, right? So in 2021, in 2022, I think the CEC and CPE established our guiding sort of dual credit goal for the Commonwealth that by 2030, 50% of high school graduates will have passed a dual credit course with a C or better. Again, when you look back there at 2016, the next year, the General Assembly established that dual credit scholarship fund. You can see immediately between those 2 years, there was a vast jump, a stark increase in the completion rate of dual credit with among our public high school seniors. Since that period to our last year, for which we've got cohort data for all graduates, which was 2022, the proportion of our public high school graduates who've completed a dual credit course has increased almost 20 percentage points. So to say the least, we're well on our way to meeting that 50% goal by 2030. But tremendous progress, again, that's been the work of collaboration across the state, certainly with support from the legislature, CPE, the CEC, and all the groups that I've mentioned, certainly, to say the least, our institutions. So I think it's important contextually, though, to kind of revisit while that was so important then, 2016, 2017, why it's so important now. So looking descriptively, and I do want to point out that I'm going to be highlighting some things and saying descriptive trends or descriptive data and then inferential data or kind of controlled study data. So what you're looking at right now is an updated chart of the college going rates of these graduating seniors by their dual credit attempt status. So that line on the top of the chart that you're looking at is the college going rates of Kentucky graduating seniors, again, public high schools, who attempted dual credit. So across this chart, at around 80% college going or better. And then the bottom line is those graduating seniors who did not attempt dual credit. In most years, we're talking about a 40 percentage point gap, right? That's pretty profound difference there among folks who attempt dual credit versus those who don't. However, a question that comes up a lot is how much of this pattern, this divergent pattern, can be explained by dual credit alone? When we account for income status, when we account for race and ethnicity and other demographic factors, prior academic success, how much of this pattern is explained by dual credit alone? What we've been up to lately is answering that question exactly, in addition to how these sort of patterns change as a function of earned credit hours, so not just attempt status, but earned credit hours, and then ultimately how that the success implications continue into the first year of college and even retention to a second year. So in this chart, you're looking at across the x-axis, you've got several demographic groups, all public high school graduates. The next sort of cluster of bars there is non-URM or non-underrepresented minority students who were paid lunch. So sort of a non-URM high income or not low income group, if you want to think about it that way. The opposite of that is right next to it. So non-URM free lunch, and then the same thing with underrepresented minority paid lunch and free lunch at the end of the chart. And just looking across this chart, you can see the dark blue bars are students who attempted dual credit. The sort of teal blue bars are students who did not attempt dual credit. In this model, so these are predicted probabilities outputs from logistic regression models, including data on all Kentucky public high school graduates in the classes of 16, 17, 18, and 19. And as you can see across this chart, while holding constant or accounting for other factors such as income, race, ethnicity, prior academic success, the region in which the student was enrolled, the year in which they were enrolled, and so on, there still exists about, depending on the group, a 12 to 13 to 20 percentage point impact on college going rates that's attributable to dual credit participation alone. In other words, the isolated impact across groups that dual credit participation has ranges from 12 or 13 to 20 percentage points. That's profound and important stuff. Now, if you look at the chart that's now on your screen, we've kind of transitioned our metric from the last slide from attempt status to now how does the number of hours earned impact that predicted probability of college goingness? So, in other words, how did a student's likelihood of immediate college matriculation, how was that impacted by the number of dual credit hours that they earned? So again, we've got different colored lines here that represent our different student groups, same different student groups from the last slide. Sorry, I've got questions popping up and I can't see. Okay, here we go. And what you're looking at across your x-axis is students who took 0 hours of dual credit, 3 hours of dual credit, or earned 3 hours of dual credit, rather, 6 hours, 9 hours, and so on out to 18. For most groups, number one, I would say I think there's two important things to take away here. First of all, students who take 0 dual credit hours, you can see, for most of these groups, we're hovering in the 40s and 50s in terms of college going rate, the likelihood of college going. If you look at the opposite end of the chart for all groups, we're now at 18 hours earned dual credit, and all groups are at 76.1% likelihood or greater. The second thing that I would highlight here that's really important, don't get lost in the forest for the trees, but you'll notice at that 0 hour, that kind of bucket at the far left, those lines are typically a lot further apart than they are towards the far right end of the chart, which to me signifies that dual credit's an important access point, and it's an early post-secondary opportunity that provides equitable access to post-secondary education. So really profound impacts there. Now I'm switching back to some descriptive data here as we continue to sort of tease out the impact of dual credit in the work that we're doing. So the next phase of what I will be doing with my partners here in the meeting is to tease out how this isolated impact or this controlled impact of dual credit in Kentucky influences not just college going, which we've looked at, but also success in the first year and beyond, and of course, retention to a second year. So descriptively, so far, what we have noticed is that there's again, a tremendous gap between students who participated in dual credit and those who did not, and then matriculated to college in terms of their completion rates. So on the left, you've got dual credit participants who have matriculated to college. The bar on the right is dual credit non-participants who matriculated to college. And what you are seeing here is that students who took dual credit and matriculated were about 22% more likely to earn a credential at any time during college, so far as we can trace their enrollment, compared to their peers who did not take dual credit but did matriculate to college. About a 21.5 percentage point gap in completion rates for those 6 cohorts over time. What's important about this is I stopped my cohorts here, my first time cohorts here at 2017. So what you're seeing in these data, are pretty stark because we've allowed 7 years now on the back end of their, from their first time enrollment. So again, I've stopped this in 2017. We're in 2025 now. So as of this year, for the dual credit attempters, 66% of them had completed some credential. 44% of those who did not take dual credit had completed some credential. So a pretty significant gap. Again, something we want to tease out more empirically with a controlled inferential study, but pretty profound descriptive outcome so far. The last thing I want to share, again, these are descriptive data where we're just looking at retention rates of the dual credit participants who matriculated and their counterparts who did not take dual credit, but who did matriculate. And across this period of time over the past decade, on average, dual credit participants who matriculated returned for a second year of college at nearly a 12 percentage point higher rate than their peers who did not take dual credit. So as we continue to build this out, we'll be looking at some of those first year success metrics more in depth, and then ultimately those long-term success and completion metrics in depth. But I think the data that we have so far and continue to pull out of the work we're doing just reinforce time and time again how important dual credit is as an access point to college and sustained success through college. Ashley, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you. You have given us, a lot of food for thought with this data and appreciate, the due diligence. I don't know if we have time, but I did see a question in the chat from David. He said, Chris, is the impact of dual credit attempt status significantly different between the two groups?
Well, I think there's 2 things to consider here. One, the impact of dual credit attempt is similarly, like substantively large and powerful among all student groups. But, unfortunately, as I think we all know, different student groups have different starting points, right? Some groups, unfortunately, because of their socioeconomic or racial and ethnic background may be more disadvantaged or under-resourced and therefore less likely to go to college. But the impact of dual credit across those groups is profound regardless of that background. So one group may be starting at a 30 percentage point likelihood of matriculation. Another group may be starting at 50, but for all groups, we're seeing a 20 to 25 percentage point increase due to dual credit alone, which is profound.
Thank you. Thank you for following up on that. I like what you said earlier, how you phrased it as dual credit being an access point, and then from there, how do we continue to measure success beyond the first, second graduation matriculation, which kind of is a nice pivot to the retention efforts. And looking at this pie chart here, we know that there are a significant amount of resources that a student can utilize to help support their journey and that they are successful within their college career. And, this pie chart is just a small, visual of the areas in which impact, could be made in supporting the students. So everything is not represented here. I think one thing as we prepared for this session was what areas would we like to focus on and have the discussion around. The senior fellows and dual credit people here at CPE, we wanted to make sure that we had a nice representation of what we would like to focus on, which will kind of pivot us into the breakout portion of this session to spend some time collaborating with our colleagues across the state on how we can better support these efforts to make sure that our students are successful and matriculate and get that post-secondary degree. So I will put on the screen here just a few breakout discussion um, guiding principles, if you will. We'll spend about 30 minutes or so just discussing about those 6 areas that I put on the screen just a second ago. And within the discussion, we hope to have a report out so that others can hear some of the things that we've come up with. Here on the screen, we have in just a second a question of which breakout room would pop up in just a second. And we've collapsed some of these rooms. Rooms 1 and 2 will be together, and 6 and 7 will be together. First year programming is an area of interest. You will select breakout room 1. If college preparedness is a area of focus for you, it'll be breakout 3, and you can see, but 6 and 7 as it relates to dual credit partnerships and instructors will be collapsed as well. And we just have a guiding question, if you will, that will help facilitate the discussions that you will have in your rooms of how we can be more supportive of these efforts. So in just a second, a question will pop up and we'll go out to breakout rooms. And then we'll come back together for just a quick share out on some of the things that we could possibly collaborate on statewide. Hello, making sure that everybody has made it back. I saw a lot of good discussion and a lot of engagement. So we'll take a second to do a group share out and see what other folks had the opportunity to hear as well. So I'll just kind of go down my list. If there's a spokesperson for each room, I'll start with dual credit instructors and partnerships. If you just want to give us a nice, quick, recap of the discussion that you had.
Oh, that's our group. Sorry. Yes. So we spent a lot of time talking about credentialing. That I know for myself as a former chair of the department, credentialing was an issue that we came up with. And it's hard to find instructors who satisfy the credentials that are been put in place by the state, especially 18 hours within the content area. So what are the ways we can incentivize high school teachers to go out and get qualified, that there are incentives to maybe finish your MAT degree, but what are the incentives to get the required number of hours in the content area? Is there a scholarship program that we could introduce, or do scholarship programs exist that we can guide people to? And this could be a win-win situation for those programs across the state who offer graduate degrees, who are hungry for students and looking for more students to enroll in their program. So could we incentivize this scholarships to graduate programs within the state of Kentucky to grow those graduate programs and to fill this need of more people need to be qualified for dual credit at the same time. Can we kill two birds with one stone? That would be something I'd love to see.
Yes, all good discussion. I'll kick it off back to support services.
Hi, everyone. Kristen, Brenda, John, and myself, we had great discussion. It went quickly. We were excited to visit and share with each other. But we had a good mix of Brenda is actually teaching dual credit students, and Kristen is a connector, and John and I are both senior fellows. But Brenda mentioned one of the challenges that we face with making sure that our dual credit students know about support services is that some of those students are not on our campuses. So, how do we reach those students who do not come to the campus where our teachers go out and teach them or they're taught at their high school? So, Brenda suggested that we reach out to the guidance counselors and make sure that we have correct information in their hands, put that information in their hands, make sure that it's accurate and correct. Also, make sure that we reach the parents and maybe events at night, parent nights, and those types of things. Make sure that we are giving that information to the parents. Kristen also mentioned when we're sharing information, not to overload both the parents and the students, because we have to remember, although, most of these students are highly intelligent and they're, good students, they're still high school students. And so we want to make sure that we are sharing information at the right time, the right information with the right folks. Brenda mentioned also that maybe having an orientation on the difference between college and high school, because some of our students do not understand that there's a market difference there. So maybe an orientation, some type of way to share that type of information. Kristen mentioned that her campus hasn't really recovered in-person students from COVID. So most of the students who are in person are the dual credit students. So it's important to do that relationship building with them, making connections with them, because they're the ones that are on our campus. So in her instance, so Brenda mentioned that a lot of the students take their classes off campus. At Madisonville, a lot of their students are on campus. So it's important to make those connections. And I really appreciated that Brenda said that she attends some of the high school events for her students, like their games and their graduation ceremonies and those kinds of things. So they see her outside of the classroom. And that's another way that we make those valuable and real connections. Placement is also important. Make sure that the students are placed in the correct courses to begin with and not forced or pushed so they're prepared. And so we just had really good discussion about making sure that we get that information out about support services to students, to their parents, and to the guidance counselors, and then also forming those relationships and those real connections.
Yes, thank you. Taking notes. I definitely think relationship building post-COVID is
Yes,
huge.
so important. It's huge issue. Yes, thank you.
How about advising?
Advising.
Yes.
We had a small, intimate little group, just three of us. Most of our conversation was about the immense workload of our dual credit coordinators for having to advise all the students, the dual credit students that are attending their institutions, not taking the classes at the high school, but actually taking classes through their respective institutions. And that is a bit of a hurdle. One of them has the luxury, Lauren, she actually spends time each week as designated days where she's at her high school campuses. So piggybacking on what Kanya was talking about, I think that's very helpful for, having that presence on campus for anything is going to be a benefit. Unfortunately, training, uh, uh, insufficient formal training with advising for our dual credit coordinators, maybe potential issue. It feels like it is an issue in some areas, maybe not. Part of it's because of where dual credit's housed. If dual credit is housed with your academics or with student affairs and advising, that seems to go a little bit smoother. But when the dual credit is housed with admissions, maybe not so much. So maybe organizational structures could actually help ease that transition a little bit and provide additional support for some of our dual credit coordinators. Also, having, since they have to advise for so many, yet we're dealing with high school students that really don't know what they want, or they think they do, but they change their mind the next day. Um, Having quick, easy, frequently asked questions, advising guides, or just some kind of recommendation for those people who don't advise on a regular basis but find themselves advising these dual credit students. What can we give them to make it easier for them to say these students would be a good fit for these types of courses, right? And I think we have a project, if I'm familiar with it, we have a project of the high school to college pathways. Is that I don't know if it's statewide, college-wide, institution-wide. Expanding that seems like it would be helpful. How's that? Where we
Okay.
actually build those academic pathways from the dual credit to the college institutions, and those are mapped out so that whether you're a high school guidance counselor talking to these students about what dual credit classes at the high school they should be taking, or you're a dual credit coordinator and you're advising students about what courses through the institution they should be taking while in high school. If there was a nice, smooth plan in place, that would probably help all of our very overworked guidance counselors and dual credit coordinators. So that's what I've got.
Thank you for sharing. College preparedness.
Okay, that's me. My group, it was me, David, Angie, and Nathan. Our group was a little unique because I was it's about adult learners instead of the college preparedness, and I happened to be the guest speaker for David's in the program. They're just now starting with their college preparedness classes, so they don't have any data yet. Um, both David and Angie both said the Ed Ready has been very useful. Was getting these students prepared and stuff, along with the other assessments the students take when they first come in. So what they're doing right now has been working really great, which we know there's other outside barriers with adult learners, families and things like that. But the adult learners have really been pushing that envelope forward and moving forward with their education because they understand the importance of education. And it was just short and sweet. Like I said, it was just about adult learners, and that's what we have right now. Nathan couldn't talk. Nathan was on the road driving, but Nathan was listening, so that worked out really great. We had great conversation around other ways to help students, and that's all I have.
Thank you. And last but not least, I'll kick it to Trinity for the first year programming.
Sure. A lot of our conversation revolved around the fact that students do come in with some college credit, sometimes, maybe 3 credit hours, but sometimes up to 50 credit hours. And even when they're coming in, they're not necessarily always prepared as a student who has taken those courses on campus with that amount of college credit hours. So we had some discussions about like, why is that happening? Is it, the high school teacher is treating and teaching the students differently than a college professor would treat and teach students on campus? Sometimes it's just different platforms going from, Blackboard to Canvas or something like that. the experiences may not be the same if students are taking courses online versus now they end up on a college campus and they're in person, and the experience is very different. So they're underprepared because of systemic things like that. There's also gaps from high school to high school. So you may have students coming to you that have taken this same course, in English 101, but this high school taught it this way and had this kind of support versus this high school. So the playing field is not super level when it comes to things like this. And the executive functioning, the technical skills are not always there. So they still need some kind of freshman first year experience, even if they're coming in with lots of credit hours, because there are still gaps in what they know, even as simple as reading a syllabus and being able to understand that they have to follow the syllabus and the dates, and there may not be the same kind of grace that they had from their high school credentialed teacher, and what that looks like. So we talked a little bit about, a required orientation for dual credit students before they're taking those courses. And I know that some universities are doing that already. Some do it in limited capacity, but what does that look like? How do we have best practices around that to make sure that students are comfortable when they get into their dual credit classes, but also successful, and it's success with the professor as well, because the professors are dealing with all of these kind of wonky things that are happening from different students that are coming in at different levels. So I feel like at the end of the conversation, we definitely did not feel that students that have taken dual credit get a free pass on getting out of first year experience or intro freshman programming, because they still have some need there, and what kind of need they have, it can be varied from campus to campus, student to student. So there's definitely room for research and understanding and trying to figure out what our best strategies are for that programming.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I've had all the group share out. I believe so, but if not, definitely fill the space. But yeah, I think I covered everybody. I have taken so many notes on what everybody has shared out. And the goal is with the work here at CPE and the collaborative and with our CPE partners to incorporate this in the strategy work that we're doing, because there are a lot of good ideas were shared here, and to making sure that we in some way can utilize all these great ideas to ensure that student success is had within our dual credit students. So I appreciate all the feedback that was shared, and want you to know that we will make sure that it can be incorporated within the great work that we are all doing. I'm gonna share my screen one more time with you guys. Let me see. And you guys can see it okay? Oh, actually, no, you can't, because I didn't hit the button. Technology. Doesn't matter how many online Zoom calls you have, there's always going to be something. But if you can see it, just give me a thumbs up. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we had our group share out. Which kind of brings us to the end of this session. Having you guys keep in mind, we have a lot more work that can be done, incorporated with initiatives, and just if you save the dates on the screen, I will also drop the links in the chat for you. First being that of the dual credit opportunity webinar series here at CPE. And I don't know if Robin, you would like to take a moment to talk about that webinar series.
Sure, I'd be glad to. So Trinity and I host a monthly webinar that really focuses on Kentucky's big goal, which is our 60 by 30 goal. And typically looks through the lens of early post-secondary opportunities. I won't say it always focuses on that. Our topic for April is going to be Futurity, which is the new website that has recently launched, that has all things college and career for students and adults who are looking to advance their education or career. So we would love for you to join us in April for that webinar, but we have various topics, and some of you who are on the call today have actually been guests. We typically have practitioners from the field, whether they're K-12 partners or post-secondary partners, who join us to just talk about innovative ideas or strategies that are being used that maybe we feel like could be scaled or that other people might be interested to hear about. So I believe that QR code, you can scan that. I see Trinity nodding her head. You can scan that QR code and it will take you to the registration link. And what that will do is automatically register you for all of the webinars in the series. And then we do archive them in our early post-secondary opportunities toolkit, so that if you miss one, you can always go back and listen to it while you're driving, or you can look at it on your phone, or however you access those kind of things. So we do record so that you can have access to them later. So thanks for giving us the chance to share that, Ashley.
Thank you. Second link I am putting in the chat is for Gateway Course Success Next Community of Practice, which will be April the 10th, and Kanya will be presenting on academic support. So we hope that you can join us again at that time as well. And I'll speak very briefly on a couple initiatives that are coming up with Gateway Course Success. We are trying to finalize the launch of our data dashboard. It's an opportunity where Gateway data could live, where you can track us statewide to say, hey, this is what we're doing as far as Gateway success. We want to be able to ensure that all the ideas and initiatives that we put forward, that we are seeing our students take more Gateway courses within their majors, but with a focus here at the collaborative in English and math, and making sure that matriculates of them being successful and graduating. And that will take place around April, but summer 2025. And then we hope to have a professional development opportunity with adult ed and faculty mindset. So stay tuned for that on how faculty across the state can get involved. We want to be able to say that all the onus is on the students, but faculty and staff are part of that journey. So if ever a way to calibrate our skills to help our students along, we want to make sure that we're pouring in to our faculty as well. With that being said, that brings us to the nice conclusion and close of this session. We do hope with All Things Student Success Collaborative that you will join us in this cause and take part of our opportunities that we have with any of the strategies. And if not, please feel free to click this link, share this webinar series, or go back and view any of the others from the summit or anything that we do. But I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and happy to stick around for any questions. But if not, thank you for joining us.